All right. Hey, this is Gavin Burgess with Precision Planning again. I want to talk about one last thing on these planners as we think about that pass across the field, and that's the closing pass. The ultimate job of a closing pass is to do what? It's to act like that planner never went across that ground. Your good day to know that your closing system did a great job for you is that it's hard to find seed. So one of the tools we wanted to talk about here that we've kind of worked with different companies and developed to help us kind of give us a better idea of where our closing performance is what we call our closing lockup tool. Cornelius Seed has these available for you, so get with your local rep, he can get you some. But as we think about that, what it allows us to do is lock up that closing tail to keep that trench open and evaluate how well of a job we're doing placing seed from that meter and that spacing performance, but also to compare the row unit beside it where the closing wheel is still down and engaged and one where the sidewalls are going to be left intact to see, are we eliminating those sidewalls fully to ensure that that seed is having the best day. It's enveloped by moist soil to where it is completely set up to germinate and come up at the same time all of its neighbors. And that's the job of our closing system, again, to eliminate any pass. So here you can see that closing lockup tool set up on this row unit here. We hook it under the back of our tail, we take our T-handle out and we allow it to go slack, and we hook it up in here. And so we can now evaluate that whole profile. We can take our seed diggers, we can touch the sidewall to see how soft of a sidewall we've created, or did we create compaction with our gauge wheels up front or anything else in front of that row unit that went across that field. So as we think about it, we want that nice mellow soil back here. We're going to be able to touch that sidewall so it fractures and falls in, and that we have that seed, no air pockets around it, completely engulfed in that moist soil like we talked about. As we think about the closing wheel system, one of the bigger things to keep in mind is what kind of closing wheels should you be running? As we've done 15 to 20 years of research in closing wheel studies, we've found that cast closing wheel systems have really been prevalently more yield than others because they have a little bit more weight. And I think we figured out why. Over the last few years, we've really done a study of sitting our closing wheel tails on some scales to see what kind of spring pressure we get when we put that T-handle into the different notches. And we're finding that there could be up to 40% variance from row to row in that spring tension in the same notch setting. When we think about 40% spring tension difference, you're talking upwards of 15 to 20 pounds. So as you think about that, and you've only got a 3-pound rubber wheel on the back of here that could be getting extremely less pressure closing those sidewalls out, we may not have enough pressure there to close that system out. So what's happening with those cast systems is, I believe it's helping hold down that tail and being more engaged with the ground as it's going across those different conditions across your field. Whether it's that wet spot on the field, maybe it's that dry timber soil, or that heavy clay that you're dealing with. But we've got to keep that closing wheel system engaged. So as you think about that, as you have those challenging conditions in your field, is your closing system going to stay engaged with that ground? Or are you going to have that system be light and possibly not staying engaged? Keep that in mind as you guys are evaluating your closing wheel systems this spring, and make sure you get one of these closing lockup tools. They make evaluating that really handy.